There is a specific kind of slavery that does not look like bondage. It looks like luxury. It looks like a steady paycheck, a comfortable home, and a life filled with convenient distractions. It is the slavery of comfort. Most men spend their entire lives building a cage of gold, terrified to step outside of it, because the air out there is cold and the ground is hard. But comfort is a sedative. It dulls the senses, softens the will, and slowly erodes the spirit until you are no longer capable of struggle. The ancient samurai understood that a life without struggle is a life without honor. There is a reason why the greatest warrior in Japanese history, Miyamoto Musashi, turned his back on status and wealth to live in a cave. He knew that to be truly invincible, one must first be willing to lose everything. Chapter 1. The Rejection of the World. In the year 1643, Miyamoto Musashi began to give away his possessions. He was 60 years old, undefeated in over 60 duels, and a legend in his own time. He could have easily secured a high-ranking position as a retainer to a powerful lord, living out his final days in silk robes, surrounded by servants and admirers. Instead, he chose the opposite. He climbed Mount Iwado in Kumamoto and entered the Regondo cave. He brought no furniture, no servants, and no comforts. He slept on the hard earth and ate only what was necessary to survive. Why would a man of such immense skill and renown choose poverty? Because Musashi understood the law of attachment. He knew that the more things you own, the more those things own you. In his final text, the Dokkodo, he wrote the precept, "Do not seek to possess goods that you do not need." This was not just a rule for minimalism, it was a strategy for warfare. A warrior who is afraid to lose his comfort is a warrior who hesitates. And in the split second of a duel, hesitation is death. Musashi chose poverty because poverty meant he had nothing to protect. And because he had nothing to protect, he was free to focus entirely on the way. Chapter 2. The Golden Handcuffs. Let us look at the modern equivalent of this struggle through the life of a man named Julian. Julian was a senior architect at a prestigious firm. By all societal metrics, he had won the game. He drove a luxury car, lived in a high-rise apartment that overlooked the city, and commanded a salary that placed him in the top tier of earners. Yet, Julian was suffering from a deep spiritual rot. He hated his work. He found the corporate politics draining and the projects soulless, but he could not leave. He was trapped by his own lifestyle. Every month, his bank account was drained by mortgages, leases, subscriptions, and the maintenance of an image he felt compelled to uphold. He was terrified of the cold. He was terrified of what would happen if the steady stream of money stopped, even for a moment. He had become a servant to his own comfort. This is the state of the modern salaryman. We trade our autonomy for safety, and in doing so, we lose our edge. Julian had forgotten the feeling of hunger. He had forgotten what it was like to fight for something. He was comfortable, but he was not alive. He was simply waiting to die, anesthetized by the very things he worked so hard to buy. Chapter 3. The Moment of Severing. The breaking point for Julian came not with a crash, but with a whisper. He was reading the history of the samurai late one night, specifically the concept of asterisk, suten asterisk, or throwing away. It is the Zen principle that you cannot fill a cup that is already full. To gain new wisdom, to gain new power, you must first empty yourself of the old. He realized that his comfort was filling his cup to the brim, leaving no room for his actual destiny. He realized that his fear of poverty was the prison guard keeping him in his cell. The next day, Julian did the unthinkable. He resigned. He did not have another job lined up. He sold the luxury car that required the heavy monthly payment. He moved out of the high-rise and into a small, modest studio apartment in a quiet part of town. His friends told him he was having a breakdown. They called him reckless. But for the first time in 10 years, Julian felt a surge of adrenaline. He felt the cold wind on his face. He had voluntarily chosen poverty compared to his previous life, but in that poverty, he found the first taste of absolute freedom. He had severed the golden handcuffs. Chapter 4. The Reforging of the Spirit. The first few months were not easy. In fact, they were terrifying. This is the phase that Musashi called the Great Doubt. Without the distraction of entertainment and the validation of his high-status job, Julian was forced to confront the emptiness inside himself. He had to learn asterisk gamen asterisk. the virtue of enduring the unbearable with patience. He sat in his small room, stripped of his expensive identity, and faced the silence. But as the weeks passed, something miraculous happened. The noise in his head began to clear. Because he no longer needed a massive salary to survive, he was no longer desperate. He began to design again, but this time, he designed things that mattered to him. He took on small projects that aligned with his values. He worked with a focus he had never possessed before. This is the concept of ichigyo zanmai, full concentration on one act. When you strip away the excess, your energy becomes a laser. Julian realized that his previous wealth was actually a form of poverty because it cost him his soul. Now, in his financial simplicity, he was building a wealth of spirit, skill, and autonomy that no boss could ever take away from him. Chapter 5. The Unassailable Fortress. Musashi died in that cave, owning nothing but his swords and his brush. Yet, 400 years later, we still study his words. He achieved immortality not through accumulation, but through renunciation. He showed us that true power does not come from what you can buy. It comes from what you can do without. When you are no longer afraid of discomfort, you become dangerous. You become a force of nature that cannot be bribed, coerced, or threatened. The lesson for you is not necessarily to sell everything and move to a cave. The lesson is to examine the chains of comfort that bind you. What are you tolerating in your life simply because you are afraid to lose your lifestyle? What potential is rotting inside you because you are too warm, too full, and too safe? To walk the path of the warrior, you must be willing to step into the cold. You must be willing to choose the difficult path of purpose over the easy path of pleasure. Comfort is a cage. Step out of it and find out who you really are.